Appreciate you joining me today. My microphone died, so there wasn't any sound to the video after I edited, so I'm just going to kind of narrate what I was doing here. So, I'm going to do chocolate eggs today like I talked about in the previous video. There's the egg mold right there, and we're going to do peanut butter and coconut filled eggs, and I talked about how that's a silicone mold, by the way, and I talked about how I'd been thinking about why the chocolate bunny with the marshmallow filling failed over the last several days, and I think what happened was that I didn't coat the molds twice, and also that I had put the mold in the freezer both times instead of doing it into the refrigerator for 5 minutes and then coating it a second time, then into the refrigerator for 5 minutes before I filled them. But I guess I was afraid that the marshmallow would melt the chocolate, so I was so focused on that I didn't really do the steps I should have done properly, and I think that's why they didn't hold up to molding. So I think I might do those again next year, and I'll remember to do them properly this time. So now I'm talking about how we're going to do peanut butter. So what I'll do is I'll coat the mold with chocolate, and then I'll put it into the refrigerator like I should. Then we'll coat it a second time like you did for the hot chocolate bombs at Christmas time. We'll put it back in the fridge, and then we'll fill it. There I'm showing you that I pre-made some royal icing flowers to decorate the eggs today. I did purple, pink, and yellow, and then put the white centers in them just like I did for the sugar eggs that I made for everyone in the last video. And I also made some green, tinted some of it green so that we would have it for leaves on top of the eggs when they're done. So you can pre-do that stuff so it's dry, so you can handle it when you get ready to decorate whatever it is that you're making, whether it be cookies or candy. And we have leftover white for putting it, using it to glue the flowers onto the top of the eggs. And of course I pre-melted the chocolate, and I'm using the quick coat like I did for the hot chocolate bombs. It comes in a tray, and it's a nice dark chocolate, and you break it up and melt it. You can actually melt it in that tray in the microwave, but that's not what I do. I put it in that candy melting pot that I got from Wilton's. So here I'm explaining that what we'll do is we'll coat the mold, and while the mold is in the refrigerator, we'll mix the peanut butter, and then we'll coat the mold the second time, and then we'll mix the coconut. Then we'll fill them, and then we'll put them into the back into the refrigerator, and we'll let it sit for a couple of hours before we seal it, and then we'll put it into the freezer. So we want it to set up really nice before we put it into the freezer. And I've even been thinking about this a little bit more to have a little bit nicer bottom on my molded candies. Is I'll get my scraper, and I will start going across the bottom of it so there's a nice flat surface when you turn the candy out. Because I haven't been doing that, and I probably should have been. So of course we got to polish the molds first because we want the candy to be nice and shiny and pretty. Any soft cloth will do. I just use that flour sack cloth that I have. I just have a special one, that's all I use it for. I don't use it for anything else. I thought I had everything we needed, but I had to go running with that right quick. To make sure it's all nice and clean, it doesn't have anything in it, and then we just polish it with that cloth right quick. So I'm talking about I'm gonna do 3 peanut butter, and I'll do 3 coconut. So I'm just talking about, I've already measured out everything for the peanut butter and the coconut filling that we're going to do. And the peanut butter and the coconut filling that I'm making, you can actually use in other candies like the peanut butter. You can make peanut butter cups with, like we did for the Christmas goodies video. And the coconut, I didn't use this recipe for the coconut I did for Christmas, but this is the same recipe I've done to make mounds and almond joy bars previously. And I used Ghirardelli melting chocolate to cover them. And that's not what I used today, though. And I noticed when I used the Ghirardelli chocolate, melting chocolate, that the dark chocolate looked like what you use for almond joys, and the regular melting chocolate looked like what you would use for mounds. It was really weird because it seemed like they were reversed. The regular chocolate was darker than their dark chocolate, and I don't know if maybe I'm just misunderstanding something about that or not, but that's just like a little tip, FYI tip. So I'm explaining what we're using for the recipes. So for the peanut butter, it's very simple, and I made a double batch because I wanted extra of both of these. I didn't make double of the coconut because it makes a lot anyway, because that recipe is for making almond joy bars or almond coconut and chocolate and coconut nut bars, almond bars. So the peanut butter just takes a quarter cup of confectioner sugar and 1 cup of creamy or crunchy peanut butter, whichever you like. You can use natural peanut butter if you want to. I use creamy for this recipe and for when I make the peanut butter cups. And then the coconut recipe um, takes it takes 7 ounces of sweetened condensed milk, not evaporated milk, but the sweet thick kind in the small can. And it takes a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and an eighth of a teaspoon of salt, and 2¼ cups of powdered sugar, and 14 ounces of flaked sweetened coconut. And that's what I use for when I make coconut rum. So yeah, it makes a really nice coconut rum. So I put the links to the recipes in the description just like I always do. Now I'm just explaining what we're going to do. And I think next time what I would do is, and this recipe for the peanut butter filling is actually for piping into candy molds. And I think next time I do the peanut butter cups that's what I'll do, is I'll pipe it into the molds instead of pushing it off of a teaspoon, because that just seems to make more sense and seems like it would be easier and wouldn't make as much of a mess. So now I'm talking about how the recipe for the coconut filling goes together. We're supposed to mix together the sweetened condensed milk, the salt, the vanilla in a bowl with a wooden spoon, and then we're supposed to mix in the powdered sugar a cup at a time until it's smooth, and then we mix in the coconut, and we make sure that it's all mixed together really, 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 really well. And it's really thick, and it holds together. I mean, you can squish it together, it holds together, and it makes a nice filling for candy, especially this recipe, because when you cut it, you don't want it to like ooze out. You want it to hold together because it looks nice if it holds together. So right there, I'm explaining about the Ghirardelli chocolate, the difference in the Ghirardelli chocolate. When I had made mounds and almond joy type candy previously, I'm gonna turn on the AC right quick. I wore it was cold this morning. Well, the morning that I made this video, so I was wearing a sweater, and by that afternoon it was 80 degrees. It was pretty warm in my house by then. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to coat the molds with the chocolate, and I think I put about a tablespoon in each one of those egg cups before I started painting the chocolate. So I'm just explaining, and make sure that you get in there nice and good and get all the way to the edge, because you want it to be all the way to the edge so that you can make sure that once you put your filling in there, and you don't want to fill it all the way to the top because you want to have some room for that layer of chocolate that you're going to use to seal those. And you want to seal them really, really well so that the filling doesn't spoil. They'll last longer if you make sure that the candy is sealed really well. And you should do that with anything. Anytime you do molded candy where it needs a seal on it because it has a filling in it. And I actually think the little bonbon molds that I use for Christmas, I was thinking about it that I bet those would make really good um, chocolate cherries for Valentine's Day. So I think for Valentine's Day, that's what I might do. I might soak my cherries in the brandy for 24 hours in the freezer, and then do my cherry filling, and you wrap the cherries in that filling, and then put them in that chocolate mold that I used, the one that I sprayed the gold on top of. I think I put coconut in those. So we'll see come Valentine's Day. I found some boxes for those sugar eggs that I made for displaying, because they're not really to eat. They're just really just to look at. It's a nice little gift to give somebody. So I found a nice clear plastic box to put them in. See, aren't they pretty? So I'm just continuing to coat these molds with chocolate. And of course I have realized that you can't see what I'm doing again. I'm so sorry. Sometimes I do that and I apologize. I need to have everything to my right so that you can see what I'm doing. I actually need a bigger kitchen. That's actually what I need. It's kind of difficult with that sink right there because I don't have a lot of counter space. And I was thinking the other day that maybe a solution for that would be to find um, either sink covers. They might make sink covers for that, like they do in RVs, or maybe I could just get a piece of plywood and cover the sink so I have some space over there. I have a table behind me to put stuff on, but it just seems like it's more convenient if it's right there for us to have. These are a little bit larger molds, so they take a little bit more time to make sure all the chocolate is painted into each cavity. They're good sized molds too. I guess they hold about a quarter of a cup of filling. You could make solid chocolate if you wanted to, but as big as these molds are, I wouldn't really recommend it. But you could do. I was thinking you could do mint too. I didn't have any mint. I actually gave all of that mint extract away at Christmas time. I didn't make enough to save some for myself, and I forgot to pick some up. But I think that would that would make a nice, you could tint it green or you could tint it pink, um, or just leave it white like for peppermint patties. I have a candy mold for peppermint patties. Maybe I'll make some of those for you one day. Make some um, peanut butter cups and some peppermint patties and maybe the cherries, the chocolate cherries for you. That's a nice candy. All of those are really, really good. I made a bunch of those to give away when I went to Portland to visit a really good friend of mine. I just love it there. It's so pretty. I just couldn't get over how many edible things grew wild there. Flowers everywhere, fruits and nuts, and vegetables and cheese. Oh, it's just amazing all of the stuff that's there. So much art. I just love places that just art everywhere. Florida's like that, especially like St. Augustine, just like the St. Augustine and the flea market in Sanford, Florida. I used to live in DeLand. Is like that, just a lot of art going on there. So now we're going to mix the peanut butter filling, and it's very simple. It's just a cup of peanut butter and a quarter cup of powdered sugar, and you just mix it together till it's mixed really well. And I think maybe next time I would add a little bit more powdered sugar to this to make the peanut butter filling for these eggs, not necessarily peanut butter cups, but for these eggs, a little thicker. And I actually made a double batch. I'm going to use the rest of this to make peanut butter cups. And I used creamy peanut butter, so um, so I actually have 2 cups of peanut butter in there and a half a cup of powdered sugar. You don't need salt or anything because the peanut butter's plenty salty enough. So you just mix it really, really well. Make sure you get it all off the bottom, off the sides. And like I said, this recipe actually was meant to pipe into candy molds. So I think that's why it's not as thick for what I'm using it for. So I'm thinking in hindsight I would have added a little more powdered sugar to that. But it still worked out well. When I cut the eggs at the end of the video, it holds together just fine. It tastes really good too. It's got a real nice balance of sweet and salty to that peanut butter filling. It is really nice. I'm just checking to make sure I got all the powdered sugar off the bottom and off the sides. Make sure it's all mixed in really well. But see, it's plenty thick enough for this. And I still think I would have preferred it just a little thicker for the eggs. So see, that didn't take long at all. Move it back to the stove. I think we had maybe a minute or 2 left. So now I'm just reading how to do the coconut recipe. I don't think we have enough time before the eggs are going to be ready to coat a second time. And I really do think that's why the chocolate covered marshmallow was a tasty fail, as I called it, was because I didn't coat the molds twice and I didn't start in the refrigerator, because actually starting it in the freezer is what I think part of what made the chocolate so brittle, because you've got to follow the correct steps when you're making molded chocolates, or they just won't turn out well. And of course my shells cracked because they weren't thick enough. So start in the refrigerator, coat them twice, fill them, put them back in the refrigerator for a little while, let them set really well, and then seal them. And that time they'll go into the freezer for at least 10 minutes. And then when you pull them out of the freezer, you'll know the chocolate is set because the chocolate won't be shiny anymore. If the chocolate's still a little shiny, it's not ready. So put it back into the refrigerator for, I don't know, do another 5 minutes at least until your chocolate is dull and it's not shiny anymore. It doesn't look wet, like wet chocolate anymore. I've gone to get something to show you that I got as a coach's gift. There it is. I got that from the bakers from my first uh, one of my first soccer teams that I coached. That is a hand painted glass egg. It's like a little storage box, and it's really beautiful. It's got some gold leafing on there. It's absolutely gorgeous. I coached all three of my kids in soccer. Chris, my oldest son, his team. We showed up for the coach for the very first team meeting, and they had no coach. So I told Chris if he would help me that I would coach his team. And next thing I know, I'm coaching all three kids that year. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was really nice. We won a lot. Chris's team 2 seasons was 15-1-0, and Josh's team was 14-1-1. Josh and Travis both are state championship soccer players. Chris went to Belgium to play in an international tournament when he was 15. So, yeah, it was nice that he got invited to do that. He had a lot of fun. He said it was really beautiful over there. Travis's team, they won state championships 2 years in a row. So you noticed there when I showed you that chocolate mold how the chocolate looked dull. It didn't look wet at all. So that means that it's ready. So I'm putting the same amount of chocolate in the second time. I think looks like it's a little more than a teaspoon. It's about, a heaping teaspoon of chocolate into each one of those molds. That, what, I don't know, maybe a tablespoon is that. Those are little spoons we'd eat cereal with, I guess. Regular teaspoons or whatever you would like to call them. So yeah, I realized that you guys couldn't see what I was doing. We were just going to paint the molds then. And I was talking about when Joshua also went to Europe for 3 weeks as a student ambassador with People to People. He really enjoyed that. He went to France, Germany, Switzerland, and Spain. He said Germany had the best food, and Spain had the nicest people, and that didn't surprise me at all. And Chris said that in Belgium, the streets were so clean you could eat off of them. He said I would have been really happy there because they have French fries on every corner, and that's like potatoes are my favorite food. I was talking about, making sure that you hit all of the edges really well and that you can't see through any of the chocolate. Like I said, I really feel like that was where I fell down on the job on the molded, the chocolate, the marshmallow filled chocolates, was that I didn't properly prepare the chocolate mold part. That was my fault, so I apologize for that. I'll do better next time, I promise. So I think there I'm talking about Travis's team when they were playing U12. They were ranked 19th in the nation, and Travis wasn't happy about it. I'm like, oh, why are you upset that you're 19th in the nation? He's like, well, that means there's 18 teams that are better than we are. I'm like, okay, so can we talk about the fact that you're ranked 19th in the nation? He didn't care. It was number one or none with him. But like I said, they won 2 state championships, so they did really well. That first year that Josh and Travis both won a state championship, the soccer teams from our club all went to the same tournaments together. It made it easier for parents who have more than one child that played. And Travis and Joshua came home with first place from every tournament except for one, and that was the final tournament of the season for the turkey trot. And Josh's team took first, and Travis's team took second. and he was not happy about it. Travis really liked winning, so but it was nice. Their trophy case had 2 trophies in it that were from that season, where they each brought home first place from every tournament they went to that season, except for just that one. It's really nice. I really enjoyed watching them. They used to choose me on Joshua's team because Joshua would never score unless I wasn't watching. Like I would run to the car and grab something I forgot, or I would run grab a cup of coffee, and he'd score while I was gone. Of course, I'd have my back turned and he would score. And the thing, and we would need a goal, and everybody would go, "Hey, Selena, don't you need to like go to the bathroom or get something from your car? We need a goal." They were really funny. At the Thanksgiving tournament, though, Joshua made this beautiful, like 4 feet off the air maneuver and scored a goal. And the first thing he did was look to the stands for me, and he saw me, and he asked, "Did you see that?" And I was like, "Yes, yes, yes, I saw that." And of course, everybody was like, "Congratulations, early Christmas presents. Selena got to see Josh score." Yeah, they got jokes. But yeah, it was pretty funny. That was a great season, though. They both did really well. Chris wasn't playing at that point. I think he was already out of high school, and he wasn't playing anymore at that point. I'd always kind of hoped he would have tried out for the Battery, but he wasn't interested. I used to think that he would make a great sportscaster, though, because he knows so many sports facts. You can ask him anything, and bam, he just knows it. He just retains that kind of information. So we're going to do 5 more minutes on that. My little hearing companions let me know that there's a bad storm outside. It just blew up out of nowhere. So now the directions to this recipe say to add the sweetened condensed milk. Got to get it all in there because it's really thick. So you mix the sweetened condensed milk, the vanilla, and the salt together in a bowl so they're mixed really, really well. I'm not left-handed, so. You can get all the salt out of there. I'm not left-handed unless I'm driving a stick shift car. It's kind of silly. I don't want to stick it in that jar because it was sticky from the sweetened condensed milk. It smelled really good with that vanilla in there. It takes a little time to get it mixed together because the vanilla extract has a little bit of an alcohol base to it, so you got to get it really stir it up really well to get it mixed in there. I don't remember what I was talking about there. I'm sorry. I'm looking back at the recipe. So now you're supposed to add the powdered sugar a cup at a time until it's mixed in there really well. And I accidentally put the coconut in first. I am so sorry. I totally forgot. At that point, I probably should have just like poured it back into the bowl, but I just decided to go for it, and I'm just adding the powdered sugar in there a little bit at a time. Try to get it all mixed in there and save the mess that I've made. You guys told me to leave my bloopers in, and I'm leaving my bloopers in. So here you go. Here's a mistake that I made. That stuff's really thick, so it's hard to mix together anyway. Kind of like, I don't know, mixing meatloaf or something. Really, make sure I'm excuse me, pulling that liquid off the bottom. And the powdered sugar in a little at a time. Each time you add that powdered sugar, it really thickens it up. Little by little, coming together. I like using these glass bowls because you can see what's on the bottom. Make sure you get everything in there. And of course I'm making a mess. I mean, what would my videos be without me making a mess, right? The more you get it worked in there, the thicker it gets. So now the chocolate's done. I'm going to wash my hands really, really well. Because I've decided now that what I need to do is I need to just really get in there and mix that coconut, I think. So I'm looking, I think it's still wet, so I'm just going to put it back for a couple seconds. Because I think when you put in that second layer of chocolate, it kind of melts the layer below it a little bit. So I think what I'm going to, yeah, so now I'm taking my rings off because I'm going to get in there and I'm going to mix it together with my hands so it's nice and even. So don't do what I did. Pay attention and do what the recipe says. The recipe says to mix powdered sugar into the sweetened condensed milk mixture a little at a time. And then you add the coconut and make sure it's all nice and covered. Pixie's back over there letting me know that the storm is getting bad, and I'm letting her know that yes, it's loud enough that I can hear it. My apartments are really, really new, and I can rarely tell if there's a storm going on outside. Sometimes I actually have to look, because I think there might be something. Even when a hurricane came through here, I couldn't really tell. So, making sure my hands are dry. We don't want to get hand sanitizer on there. Now I'm just going to squish together like it was meatloaf. Let's make sure it's all mixed up nice and well. Because we want it to hold together, kind of like meatloaf would. We want it to be like the filling in Mounds or an Almond Joy bar, so that when you cut it, that it holds together after you fill it into those chocolate cavities and the eggs. And you can use these leftovers to make the almond bar or the Mounds bar and just press that into a pan and then cut it into bars and just dip it in chocolate. And that chocolate I'm using is perfect for something like that. Or you can get the Ghirardelli's. It was a really nice chocolate. It tasted really good. And I think I used their regular to do my peppermint patties because I realized that it was the dark color that I was looking for the peppermint patties. So making sure it's all nice and thick, all mixed in really well. So we want it to hold together. So that was totally my mistake. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's holding together now. And of course I'm making a mess. Yes, okay. Now I'm checking to see if it holds together like I want it to. Getting the extra off my hands before I go and wash that off. Mix it a little bit more, I think. Yeah, it's holding together just like I want it to. So I'm done with that part. That Pyrex measuring cup on the. You're right. I've had that since I first started cooking it. Probably 20. Probably since I was 17 or 18. Because I was a chef's assistant when I was in high school. So that was my school to work program that I participated in. Because since I couldn't go to veterinarian school, I decided, well, maybe I could, be a chef. Because I really, really like to cook. I've always liked to cook. So that's what I did. I was cooking at a large hotel in downtown Fort Worth. I even got to cook for the ice capades one night. I was making things like, New York strip steaks and stuffed pork chops and things like that. We had a really nice full service restaurant, and I got to cook by myself probably about 2 months after I started doing the program. He was letting me cook by myself, so it was nice. I must have been doing a good job, and I've always enjoyed cooking, so that's why I wanted to do these videos for everyone. Kind of share my love of cooking. See how they're not shiny at all. That's how we know they're ready. And I've posted an example of not ready and ready toward the end of the video after we seal the eggs to show you what it looks like. Yeah, we're just gonna fill them, and remember, about a quarter. We want to leave about a quarter of an inch in there for to close it up and to make sure that it's sealed really well. We want it to have a nice bottom on it. So when we turn them out, that's what that's going to be. That's going to be the bottom. So I'm going to do 3 peanut butter and 3 coconut. And I'm just going to do those 6 today. I'm going to save the leftovers for peanut butter cups and coconut filled chocolate. And I might make bars. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. So I don't know. After I got it in there, it looked like there was about a quarter of a cup in each one of those. And we're not going to bang it on the counter like we would a cake, or like we did the marshmallows to get the air out. We're just going to like shake it back and forth to make it smooth out. The peanut butter off the side so that when we put the chocolate on there, it seals, and that doesn't prevent it from touching the chocolate all the way around. So we're going to put that to the side, and then I'll put that in a storage container to use later. I've got those Pampers Chef containers. I'll put that in when I'm done. Like I said, looks like it's about a quarter of a cup, and we want to press this coconut down well, but we don't want to press it so hard that it breaks the chocolate underneath. Because we want that to look pretty, because when we turn it out, that'll be the top. So we're just going to press that in there nicely. Make sure it's firm so it holds together when it gets cut, but not so much that we break the shell underneath. And we don't want to fill it completely full either, because we want to leave enough room to put the chocolate on there to seal it closed. How nice that's holding together. So we're just going to press it in there. Nice and neat. Looks like it's about a quarter of a cup. Just press it down. Gently but firmly. And again, I apologize. My microphone, it just died, so I had to order something new. I did pick up some fillets, and I wrapped them in bacon, because I went to Food Line and they didn't have what I normally buy from them. I normally can get filet mignon bacon wrapped filet mignons, or individually wrapped, and they come like 2 to a pack. But he said that they don't have them anymore, so I just got some fillets, some small fillets, and wrapped them in bacon, and then I vacuum sealed them so that I can do a sous vide video for you and show you how to do steaks sous vide method, and we'll make dinner one night. So once my microphone is fixed, or I have a new one to use, I will do a sous vide video and show you how to do that. It's really simple. I got mine off of eBay, and I've been with eBay since the beginning, so for their 25th anniversary, I got a $25 gift certificate to spend on anything I want. So I thought, well, I don't know if this is something I'm really going to like, and I've never done sous vide method before, so I'm just going to find the cheapest one I can, and I used my $25 gift certificate on it. So I think it ended up costing me like $4. I paid for shipping or something like that. So yeah, and it's really nice. It's nice. It's easy. It's basically, you start your food, you set it for the amount of time and the temperature that you need, and wait till it's done. And then for the steaks, we finish it in a cast iron skillet, and we just brown it on each side, and we're done. And in the time it takes me to brown on each side, I can microwave a potato and have dinner. It's really simple, and the good thing about it is that you can start frozen. Just add 30 minutes. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. I haven't gone all the way to the top. So I left them in the freezer for 2 hours. So now we're going to take them out, and we're going to put the chocolate seal on them, and then we're going to decorate them. You see? Isn't that nice? Got my flowers over there. Oh, so that same day I got in the rest of my Sri Lanka beans, and that is 7 cups of Everclear and distilled water. You dilute the Everclear 1-to-1 with distilled water, so it's 3.5 cups of Everclear, 3.5 cups of distilled water, and I prepared that ahead of time. And then it's a total of 7 ounces of beans. So it's 1 ounce of beans per cup of alcohol of your choice. And just like always, I split half of my beans. So I've got my plate for display there to show you what it looks like when it's done. Now we're going to put on the chocolate to seal our eggs closed. And those will be 5 minutes in the freezer. And again, I'm putting about a tablespoon of chocolate on each one of those to start. And then we're going to use our paintbrush and we're going to push that chocolate to the edges. We want to make sure we get it all the way to the edge of the chocolate because we want that sealed closed so that what we have on the filling on the inside doesn't spoil. That's what we're doing here. Probably wondering what I have in that strawberry pot over there. I do not have a green thumb, but I keep trying. So I have rosemary in the top. I think I have sage, basil, dill, oregano, and lemon thyme in there. And the basil, the sage, and the lemon thyme and the rosemary are already sprouting. Oh, and I have pineapple sage in there too. And I like pineapple sage because it smells like pineapples, and you can actually use it to make cocktails and use it in salads and salad dressings and things like that. And all of those are perpetual. If I can get them to grow, they're all perpetual. So it'll be nice. So we'll see. I am not good at growing things at all, but I keep trying. I wish I had my great grandma's green thumb. I'm just talking about making sure that you get the chocolate all the way to the edges of the mold. That's very, very important. And I think this is when I realized that I probably will in videos going forward when I do molded chocolates, I'll get out my bench scraper and I'll fill my molds a little bit less than I do now, and then I'll just go across the mold and scrape off the chocolate and make sure I have nice flat bottoms on all of my candies going forward. I've been thinking about how I could do that and make it look nice, and I thought, well, I have a bench scraper, so I'll do that. That's what they do in the movies and TV, right? So that's what we'll do from now on, too. And I think for this bigger mold, I'm actually using a little bit bigger paintbrush than I use for the smaller ones. Helps it go a little bit faster. And I use natural hair brushes because they're softer and they don't leave an impression in the chocolate like a synthetic brush mold like a synthetic brush would. See, I say things I'm thinking one thing and I mean to say something else. So I use natural hair brushes, and I always have. I use those like when I do a design on cakes and cookies, and it helps to smooth it out like we did when we did the flowers and centers in the previous video. How we just tapped it so that the point that I left when I did the centers goes away. So I'll use a paintbrush so that when I fill something in, I can pat it down so it's nice and smooth and it looks really pretty. So I'm just checking to make sure that I've sealed all the edges. Doesn't look the same from both sides, so make sure you turn it here and there and check it all around. Make sure all the edges are sealed really nicely. And do that when you're covering them as well. I didn't take as many pictures this time as I normally do. I'm turning that off because I'm not going to need it anymore. Then I'll unplug it. I forgot to make space. Oops. Take my hamburgers that I made out in the previous video. Buns. I keep that stuff. I keep buns in the refrigerator, in the freezer, so they don't spoil. I live in a humid climate, so I know you're not supposed to store bread in the refrigerator, but when you live in a humid climate, that's what you do. So I'm gonna put those in the freezer for 10 minutes, and then we're gonna check them. I might upload some of the videos. So now we're back. In 10 minutes. We're gonna check it and see if they're done. Okay. So I've actually, this is the second time I've taken them out. I took them out at 10 minutes and they were still wet. So I put them back in for 5 more minutes. And I did take a picture and I've added that to the video so you can see what they look like and why I put them back in for another 5 minutes. So now we're turning them out and you gotta remember which was which. You notice I turned them over a certain way so we could tell which was the coconut and which was the peanut butter. That's the coconut side. Pushing the shape back together. And if you'll notice, I actually mix those up, and it's okay because the two I mixed up are actually the ones that I saved for myself, so it's okay that I mixed them up. So I have one peanut butter on the coconut side, and that's coconut actually, that I just touched. And I'm looking to see if I can tell which is which, and make sure that they're sealed. So I actually got a coconut mixed in, and that's peanut butter that I just touched. But that's okay because those two I actually gave to myself. So it's okay that I mix those up. But I wasn't thinking about it at the time when I flipped them over that I had mixed them up. So I just put some royal icing into just a Ziploc bag, and I'm just going to cut a little tiny bit of the tip off so that we can use that as our glue for our flowers. And a couple of the molds had little dots on the eggs, so I used those dots on those eggs and put the flowers in a line on those eggs, and then I put the ones that didn't have a dot in like little triangular decorations. And then I added leaves afterward. And I pre-made this stuff so we could save some time. And the royal icing recipe is in the Easter projects video, so you can look at that. You can get the link there. And I also did the flowers so that I would know when I bagged them up for gifting which ones were coconut and which ones were the peanut butter. So that one there had the three little the three little dots on the egg mold. So I did the flowers in a line instead of in like a little triangle shape. We're just adding the flowers now. I'm just kind of looking through there and trying to find flowers that all look similar together. And I'm reminding you that you get to eat the ugly flowers. Put this to the side while we, yep, see, I didn't like that one, so I took it off. I noticed that it just had one petal that I didn't like the way it looked, so I took it off. It's still wet, so I could take it off that way. Remember, you have to eat the ugly ones. There's those out of the way so I can do the next ones. And I did these similar, I just arranged the flowers in a different order, color-wise, so I would know these were the peanut butter ones. And that's what I'm explaining here is how I decided to do the flower. And how I'm doing them in a different order for the peanut butter than I did for the coconut. So I'm doing the other two. We're just putting the flowers on. A little dab of the royal icing. And we'll use the green flowers to give it some nice accents and cover up any white that might be showing through underneath the flowers. I'm just explaining about how you can use the leaves to cover up any little mistakes. Everybody has an artist living inside of them, and you can use food to bring out that artist in everyone. That's what I'm talking about there. Bring out the artist in you, no matter what it is. I also crochet and I knit and um, I draw, but I don't paint. I don't paint very well. I wish I could paint better. And I think right now I'm talking about how, because the storm's getting really bad outside at this point. So I live in a hurricane-prone area, and if we do have a storm that heads our way this year, I'll do video on some hurricane preps that I have. I got some idea. Grew up in Florida, so I've learned a lot of stuff there, and I always thought it was kind of weird. I come to South Carolina to live through a Category 4 or 5 hurricane. Um, my sons, Chris and Josh, and I, and my mom, we survived Hurricane Hugo. That was tons of fun. Not. So, I've since learned a lot of things about getting ready for a hurricane uh, headed my way. So, I'll do a video on some hurricane preps that I do to get ready for a storm. I would say if you live in an area that is prone to storms, I should have wrapped this tip in something wet, like a paper towel, a wet paper towel. I just wrapped it in that plastic and it wasn't enough. So I'm just um, wiping the tip off with a moist cloth now. Grab a paper towel. Just going to get it damp a little bit. Wipe it off so we can do the leaves on the eggs now. But yeah, I'll do a video on tips for hurricanes. I would suggest, get some 5-gallon buckets that are food safe. Get some gallon glass jars. Anything that's easy to handle when it has water in it, because a gallon of water weighs 8 pounds. So you multiply that by 5, that's a 40-pound bucket. But I would have at least a 5-gallon bucket in each bathroom for flushing toilets. Because, yeah, that's important to have the ability to flush your toilets, because you can't hold it for a few days. Trust me. Um, also, if you have to use tissue, have a designated trash can just for tissue that you normally would flush, that you can keep a lid on. Um, Also, have bleach in the house. I would actually, each time you go to the grocery store, pick up an extra canned good. Pick up, a, a little bit of bleach. Pick up, some paper towels. Have a box or two that's designated just for your hurricane preps. Pick up some duct tape. I actually have a camp stove. It's a propane camp stove that I could use out on my patio. You wouldn't want to use anything like that in your house. You don't want to have a generator, a portable generator, or anything with propane in your house when you have no power and no ventilation. Be sure that you use those things outdoors and that your generators are away from any open windows or open doors, because you cannot smell carbon monoxide, and carbon monoxide is the silent killer. So be sure that you're safe with those things. Don't use them in your garage. Use them outdoors in a well-ventilated area. If you have to use charcoal, you can do that too. Again, don't do them under roofs on a patio or something like that. Outside in the yard, away from your building. Because we already have one disaster going, we don't need any more. So I'll do a video on some hurricane props. And a lot of it was a lot like what we did for having to stay home for COVID-19. And just we were lucky to have power. So we wanted to, pick up some, some cans of tuna, some cans of chicken, some cans of soup, anything that you could heat up on. See how that chocolate right there is still wet? I had to put it back. Now it's ready. This is what they look like turned out onto the counter. Those are the coconut and those are the peanut butter. So we just continue to add little leaves there. Let's make them look pretty. Doesn't matter, just whatever you feel like looks pretty. But you don't want to overdo it. Just a little here and there. And I'm actually kind of using it just like to cover up the white underneath the flowers. And I actually made a boo-boo there with one of the leaves. I squeezed it a little too hard and a little too much came out. So it doesn't look very nice. So remember that tip I gave you. You can use a toothpick and you can gently lift it off. It'll stick to the toothpick. I just lifted it off and I put it over there. Now I can just go right back in there where I still have a little bit of green. And I'll just do another one. How cool is that? This is royal icing, so you wouldn't want to let it sit too long because then it might stick to your flower and it'll break your flower when you try to take it off. So I just gently just got up under there and just lifted off the leaf and put it off to the side. So there I'm talking about, again, about a few hurricane tips that I have. Make sure your containers that you're going to put water in are food safe. Pick up, a canned good here or there. If you like Spam, pick some of that up. If you like tuna, pick some of that up. Chicken, deviled ham, deviled beef, roast beef, corned beef, just different things that you can make sandwiches out of that don't need refrigeration. Vienna sausages. I like Vienna sausages. A lot of people don't, but I do. Hot dogs have to be refrigerated. Vienna sausages don't. I'm just putting a few here and there, just to make it look pretty. Get out your artsy fartsy side when you do stuff like this. There's an artist hiding in everyone. You just have to find out what it is your artist would like to do. I just like creating things. It just gives me a sense of accomplishment. And not to mention, if you learn how to do certain kinds of crafts, when storms do come, when winter storms or hurricanes come, then you have something that you can do that doesn't require electricity to do them. Crocheting, knitting, um, needlepoint, macrame. Those are all things that give you something to do when you can't watch TV or you can't listen to the radio, you can't watch your DVDs or anything like that. We couldn't afford a generator. I still can't afford a portable generator. So, I make sure that my phone is charged. I go out and I start my car and let my car run for a little while, and I charge my phone while I let my car run so that the battery doesn't go dead. That's what I had to do when we were in lockdown from the pandemic, because it was a couple months before we drove our cars anywhere. We were getting 3 weeks to the gallon there, weren't we? I'm just checking them and making sure that I don't want to add anything extra, any more leaves. Is there any white showing through anywhere? Now bringing them together for a picture that I'm going to take for you to show you what they look like now that they're done. And I hope that you don't mind that I went back and did a director's cut of this video. Yes, me, the little director here. So that, because I know it's annoying to watch a video and it doesn't have any sound, and if you're anything like me, I'm hearing impaired and I'm just kind of like, what's happening? I can't hear anything. So I decided I would go back and do a narrative of this video um, for people who would rather not watch the video with no sound, as I know that's kind of annoying. So I'm trying to get my phone to turn on so I can take a picture. I don't have an expensive phone. I'm surprised it takes pictures at all. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, so I got everything in the picture except what I want as I'm moving stuff around. Part of the sink, part of the paper. But anyway, if you would, I hope that if you like what you saw today, that you'll like and subscribe and share with your friends and make a comment. And please be nice. And, let me know in the comments. Those are the little treat bags that I'm going to put them in after they're dry. I'm going to let them sit for about an hour before I bag them up. And I'm going to staple them closed. I was going to do tape, but I thought, no, I would have to turn them over to do that. So I'm just going to staple them closed. But, let me know in the comments if there's something that you would like for me to make for you. Dinner. I can make you dinner. I learned how to make lasagna from my friend's mom. She's from Italy, and her sauce took 2 days to make. So I can show you how to make lasagna. I can show you how to make spaghetti sauce, American style spaghetti sauce. And, pick a dessert that you would like to see me make. Creme brulee seems to, I can't even say that right. Creme brulee seems to be very popular in our vanilla group. And I do have that torch that I bought just for that. So, let me know in the comments what you would like to see me make for you. I can try a craft if you like. I crochet, I knit. I'm not very fast at knitting, but I do know how to knit. I'm not an expert, but I do pretty well. That little snail that on the little teapot that I used to have sitting there, that's crochet. The owl is knit. Is the the snail is knit and the owl is crochet. So if you'd like to see me do something like that, I'd be happy to do it. But again, thank you for spending time with me today at Selena's Corner, and I hope to see you again next time. And there I'm letting you know that I found some filet mignons, and I'll do a seafood video for you. So I will see you next time.